Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Good Sport Reviews YouTube channel. If you haven't done it already, please make sure to click like and subscribe as we try and reach 3,000 subscribers by the end of the year. And we've got a huge Premier League game coming up this weekend on Sunday, 4:30 p.m. It's Liverpool taking on Manchester United. And honestly, there were few people I could really think of to get on the channel who would be a perfect fit to discuss Man United in this time at the moment where things might not be looking great, but I think, in my personal opinion, they could be going a lot worse. And that's Alice Talks Football. If you know who I am and you don't know who Alice is, then there's something wrong. She's on over 100,000 subscribers on YouTube, two fantastic channels. Alice, thank you so much for coming on. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, and I look forward to today's show. I am very worried ahead of Sunday, though, I won't lie.
You know, is it the thing is, when I've been looking at it, and a lot of people are saying, like, I went on Redman earlier and I was very confident saying that I think Liverpool are going to walk this, but do you not get any sort of positivity from how things went last season when the narrative was maybe Liverpool are expected to dominate Man United, and obviously you got the draw and then beat us in the FA Cup?
Yeah, I mean, there's elements of that. Could Liverpool underestimate us? Could we be very much parking the bus and make it difficult for Liverpool? Because versus Arsenal, the first half at Emirates, Arsenal didn't have a sniff, and then because we can't defend corners to save our life, we had generally, I think, only Wolves have a worse record than us this season. It was the corner that Arsenal scored from. It was like you could predict that that was going to happen, and I think in those big games, Amorim's gone quite defensive. We've been, like Manchester City went away and we beat them. Arsenal, it was a very good first half, but I think once we went 1-0 down, I think it was a bit out of the window. So I think there's elements of could we go for that 0-0? We can't score. We're hopeless in front of goal at the moment. I can't lie to you. We're hopeless in front of goal. But could we go and do a 0-0 again, like last time? There's definitely potential. I think the only thing is, I think when we paid you last time, it was like March time, and that's sort of when your dip began to sort of start. And then Man United fans were like, "Oh, we rattled Liverpool, we set them off track." Obviously, we didn't, but that was sort of when you sort of dipped a bit. Whereas you've just beat West Ham 5-0, you're at your very best. Mo Salah, he's just unstoppable, and I just think, because of the energy that Liverpool have, Luis
Mhm.
Diaz runs so much. Szoboszlai, he's going to be rested and fit. Gravenberg's so in control in midfield. Salah's on form. It worries me. Then you've got Van Dijk from corners. I heard somewhere that Konate could be back, but I don't know if it's that early for
So
Konate.
he's in. Him and Connor Bradley are both in training ahead of the game, so they can feature, but it's whether or not he starts them.
Yeah, Konate would be a threat from corners. I think Kwanzaa's been a little shaky this season. Maybe he's where United could get at you. Like, the only positive I can think of is we're going to have a Garte in midfield for this game. And I don't know if you watched our game versus Newcastle, but Eriksen and Casemiro, because they've got no legs, it's just run all over them. And then Maino came on. We had an extra body in midfield and we got a lot better versus Newcastle. I think with Garte and Maino in the pivot, there'll be a bit more control. Whereas Casemiro, I mean, he had the worst game of his life last time at Anfield. It's not a game for him, not Anfield. Last time at Old Trafford when we played you.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose it is very fortunate in a sense that Fernandez and Ugarte are back, because thought in my mind was, if they were out for an extended period, Eriksen and Casemiro struggled against the Newcastle team who put us to the sword, but having Dominic Szoboszlai and McAllister and Gravenberch and Jones and Elliott would be probably a bit too much for them to handle. And I watched a stream yesterday where you were discussing the areas of necessity for the pit on the pitch for Man United, and one part that you touched on was the left back position. Now, obviously, Luke Shaw is very injury prone. We know his struggles, and you've also got Dallo who's playing out of position. It just feels very makeshift. But with Ruben Amorim having come in, it feels very much like the narrative is, you can identify what parts of the pitch that need improving because he wants them to play his system. But coming off what you said yesterday, is there any part of the pitch that you look at and think that's suited to Ruben Amorim's system, or does it just feel like the whole squad needs to be redone at this point?
Oh, I don't even know where to begin. It feels like everything just needs to be redone. Like, Agate obviously suits the system. Like, he was at Sporting under Amarin. I think he can't stay fit, but Mason Mount, if he could stay fit, suits that left hand role. I think the biggest problem is we've recruited for a back four all these years, and we have
Mm.
quite defensive-minded fullbacks. Like, Delo, in my opinion, is a very, very good fullback in a back four. He's solid. Like, he's technically very good, can play out the press, he's good on the ball, good work rate. defensively all right. He just can't cross the ball. Like, he's never been a good crosser. He's able to get the ball up the pitch and do 1-2s and help with build and stuff, but he's never been a good crosser. And being a wing back, you've got to be a crosser because that's what Amorim wants from his wing backs. And it's like Dalot, I think, is Real Madrid's backup if they can't get Trent. Like, he's not a bad player. He was our player of the season last year, but to be fair to me, is playing on the left as well, so it's going to be that bit harder. Being right-footed, but there's just players like him that are good players and they will go and play for a good team, but he's a back four player, and he's a back four player. Mazraoui's very versatile, very good. I think Mazraoui can do a job at right wing back if the left wing back is very attacking, but if you've got Malacia left wing back, then there's no attacking wing back, and you see that in our forward play being affected. I think Mazraoui can do right wing back, right centre back. Dalot, I think, is one of those players that I really like at United. Very good squad player, can play anywhere. But I think he's one of those that probably doesn't fit the system long term that we could get a bit of money for. And I think we're just lacking on that wing back. I always think like a left wing back could make a bigger difference than people think. Like, we need like 7 signings to be realistic. But if we can get that left wing back to add that attacking dynamic, I think us not scoring goals will be better going forward. But it is the left-hand side. I think for a change, our left-hand side is shocking. It used to be quite good with Shaw and Rashford, and you'd have Pogba left centre mid under Ollie. Our left-hand side was it, and then the right-hand side was like Dan James and Wan-Bissaka, and it was like. But this time, it's the left-hand side. It's left 10, left wing back. But I think Højlund could work. He's just very raw, and he's in an environment that isn't great for a young player. Luke Shaw and Mount would fit the system, but they can't stay fit. And then Agati fits the system. Mayno's a good player, and Euro, Euro's had cameos. He's been impressive. Even though we've conceded like 3 goals, like none of it is to do with Euro. It's like Lisandro Martinez is having a really bad stinker this season.
Yeah, and like this is the thing. Like, there's players in that squad that are clearly capable. Like, if you'd have gone back a couple of years, De Ligt would have been one of the most sought after centre backs in Europe. Like I said, Dalot's not a bad player. Mazraoui's actually been fantastic as well. And there's a stat that I saw on Sky that was something like when Dalot and Mazraoui are the starting wing backs, United haven't scored 0 goals, and when they've had Amad Diallo or Anthony as the wing backs, probably one more so than the other, they've scored 9 goals. So, I mean, with that in mind coming into this game, Ruben Amorim's got a decision to make of, does he just accept the way things are and try and sit back and be a bit more defensive, or should he get caught up in the moment and be thinking, no, you know what, if we're going out on our sword, let's put these attacking wingers on and at least try and mount a kind of threat. Which one would you be more supportive of the 2 options?
I would like attacking just because I'd like to see us go for it a bit. But we went for it versus City and it worked. But City are not good at the moment, whereas Liverpool are good. Yeah. So I think realistically we have to do what we did against Arsenal at the Emirates and be defensive. I would like to see Anthony at wing back personally, because Amad Diallo has been our best wing back, but you need him in the front 3 really, because he's the only good player in the front 3. Him and Bruno are the only players that can actually, it feels like, do something, create something, make something happen. Do you know what I mean at the moment? So he needs to be in the front 3. But the problem is when he's been in the front 3 and we've had 2 defensive fullbacks like Mazraoui and Dalot, the front 3 is not really getting the ball and he's not getting on the ball as much. Whereas when he was wing back, he was carrying the ball forward. We scored 4 versus Everton. He was wing back. He was playing it out. And it's like, maybe we do Amad at wing back. But then Luis Diaz, that is quite a job, particularly if you're a winger. I think I would probably go maybe Anthony and maybe Mazraoui and Amad on the right. Have obviously Mazraoui there for defensive support. But I would probably try Anthony left wing back. I just think Dalot's been struggling. Maybe we try it. But then it's difficult because then it's like Salah, could Lisandro Martinez deal with Salah at this moment in time? Probably not. I'd like to see a winger, but I think we have to save that for Southampton. If it's Southampton, 100%. But because I just think we won't score goals if it's Dalot and Mazraoui, because we just don't get the ball up the pitch. But then I'm also like, well, Liverpool are the best scoring team in the world. I guess all we can do is not concede loads of goals and embarrass stuff. So it's so mixed, because I'd like an attacking approach, but I can understand if he goes defensive with where you're at.
Yeah, and look, I think Ruben Amorim has been very you can see the signs that he is trying to improve them. It is just the attack and centre things that are dipping. But one player in particular who he might not be sort of shining at the moment, but statistically he is still very good. I mean, Bruno Fernandes still brings something to the team, like in terms of his statistics. Like his passing's very good still. He's in the top 98% for passes completed, passes attempted, short, medium, long. His actual shooting and pass types are all like off the scale in terms of comparison to other attacking midfielders in the Premier League. But it does feel this season that he's maybe going a little bit unnoticed. And I don't know if that's because when Erik Ten Hag was in charge, it felt very much like he was dragging him out of the fire at points along with Marcus Rashford. But is he still a key component to this team in an attacking sense, Bruno Fernandes, or has he sort of faded off ever so slightly despite what the stats are saying?
I mean, the last 4 Premier League games we've had without Bruno Fernandes, we haven't scored a goal in. I don't think we scored a goal in a Premier League game, which Bruno hasn't played. So I think that tells you everything you sort of need to know. If we're struggling to score goals and when Bruno doesn't play, we literally don't score goals. The last 4 games he's missed since the beginning of 10 we've not scored. He's our most, he is arguably one of our most important, and he's our best player on paper. He is. Some people don't like him because he's not the perfect fit for the system, but he's one of those players that is such a good player when your team lacks so much quality. He's such a good player naturally that you just need him on the pitch. And it's like, I don't think he really suits Amorim's system because he's a number 10 in a midfield 3 and we play like a double midfield and then wide ends, whereas that's more Mason Mount's more suited to that. He can play in the pivot. He did well there versus Arsenal, but I'd rather see Maino there. It's one of those where, like, when Ollie set up in a 4-2-3-1, it was made for Rashford, it was made for Bruno, and Bruno's first 2 seasons at United, everybody knew that the numbers were just crazy. Like, it was ridiculous. And then under Ten Hag, he was basically asked to just run and press like a headless chicken and wasn't utilised his best maybe this season. And I think Amorim's, again, I don't think Bruno's a fit long term, but when, like, half the squad is just honestly hopeless at the moment, you need Bruno there because he can do so. Like, him and Ahmad are the only Man United players that I think can make something happen right now for us. Because, like, there's other players that I think are all right players, but just it's not happening for them at the moment.
Well, I mean, yeah, like Bruno and Ahmad are 2 players in particular who you touched on there. They are the standout performers. But one player who was, at least until about 18 months ago, I'd say, is Marcus Rashford. Now, I want to get your thoughts on this situation because there's a lot of people saying, well, you know, Ruben Amorim said it's all about training, but we've seen in the past he's had discipline issues. We've seen like recent things where he's going abroad to the USA, all sorts of things coming out. Is dropping Rashford at the moment a sort of cutting off your nose to spite your face issue where, yeah, it's great getting rid of him out of the team at the moment because he's not doing what Ruben Amorim wants, but at the same time, like you touched on before, there's real lack of attacking options from the left-hand side. Like, has he done the right thing, or would it be better to just put him back in to at least give that option going forward?
It's difficult because obviously I'm not there, I'm not in training, I don't know what's gone down.
Yeah.
He obviously came out and said he wants a new challenge. And if that's the case, then yeah, there needs to be some element of discipline. Amorim needs control. But there's no doubt in my mind, like, Garnacho and Anthony came off the bench versus Newcastle. They're not as good as Rashford. Even if Rashford's out of form, Rashford's our top scorer in the Premier League and he's out of form this season and he's missed half our games and he's still our top scorer in the league. It's like, he hasn't been in form for 18 months. But I think because of what he did do, him and Bruno are normally the 2 scapegoats as soon as things go wrong. Like, people, it's Rashford's fault, it's Bruno's fault. It's like, it's not one individual player's fault, it's a collective of things. People said this, with like, it's De Gea's fault, we get rid of De Gea, we're still crap. It's Ronaldo's fault, we get rid of Ronaldo, we're still crap. There's always like someone to blame, and it's normally one of the bigger players. And it's Rashford at the moment, I think, is the scapegoat. Because I like Rashford. I think he's out of form, and I think if he's out of form, then yeah, he has to be dropped. He has to work hard. He needs to get himself back to his best, and I'm frustrated with him because we played a game against like Victoria Pleasant or something, and he wouldn't even take on his man. He looked completely like mentally not there, and that concerns me. But I also know that, like, if Marcus Rashford is in form, there's not many wingers that touch him, and that's maybe the frustrating element from United fans. So for me, I don't know what's gone on. If Amorim needs to discipline him, he needs to discipline him. He said he probably won't be involved versus Liverpool because he's ill. I think there's more to it. I think Ineos, because of the wages, are forcing him out. Jim Ratcliffe sacked Ashworth already. He's to be honest, very impatient, I think, Ratcliffe, if that was my word. He's a little bit, I think he rushes decisions a bit quick, if just from what I've gathered so far. He clearly wants Rashford out. I don't think anyone other than Saudi is interested in Rashford in January, so he's going to have to play his way back in. I mean, for me, I would want Rashford in a game like this, but I have to just back the manager because the players have been the problem at this club for so long that we just have to support whatever the manager wants to do. But Rashford, for me, there's no Mason Mount. He's out till March. I would rather have Rashford than Garnacho and Anthony in that front three.
Yeah, and I mean, you touched on there, like Rashford 2 seasons ago was undisputably one of the best players in Europe. That campaign was unbelievable, and he does still pose a danger to teams. He's actually in the top 96% for shots on target in terms of his percentage, the top 92 for overperforming his XG. Crosses into penalty area, he's actually in the top 91% for them across all European competitions. So he still does pose a threat, and I can understand why Amorim's done it. But with the striking position being the way it is, surely there must be a scenario where he's looking at this and thinking, oof, maybe we need to. But was the Saudi deals, was it Rashford rejecting them or was it the club rejecting them?
It was Rashford rejecting them. So he got offered 35 million a year. But he's 27. He wants to get back in the England squad. I think the reason he wants to leave United is because he wants to get back in the England team. And whether you like Rashford or not, because a lot of Man United fans just want him gone, they're done with him. There's no doubt in my mind that the environment at Man United is making players perform a lot worse than they are. A lot of players will leave Man United and look a lot better. And I think Rashford's realised that it's not working for him. He doesn't suit the system. His best way of getting back in the England squad is like playing for a team that probably plays a 4-3-3, where he's very much allowed to be a mixture of a left winger and a forward, because he's not like a left winger that holds the touchline, but he's not a striker. He's almost like a left forward a little bit, runs off players. I mean, for me, I don't think Company would want to be. He's a perfect fit for Bayern Munich, because if you look at England, Saka, Rashford, Kane, that was the World Cup. Rashford got 4 goals in one start at the World Cup for England, I think. He's got, out of all the England wingers, he's got the best goals per min ratio, and that's when he was playing off Kane. He works very well with a striker who can play off, where he can be direct. So I think he would suit like a Bayern Munich or somewhere, but it's difficult because I think he wants to go and get back in the England squad, so there's no way he's going to Saudi, but it's difficult when he's out of form. Who's going to want to pay those wages?
Yeah, that's the problem. And I saw a report the other day on Sky that was saying that is the main issue. Teams can't get him, is just his wages are astronomical. And this is a problem which somewhat relates to what Liverpool's going through at the moment, which United have been doing for years, where it's give players these high exponential wages, these long-term contracts, and then you get into this kind of situation where you can't sell them on when you need to. And we've got a similar thing going on with Trent with all these contract disputes. And I just want to touch on it ever so slightly, because I think you're one of the best people to get an opinion on for this. Trent, this whole transfer embargo, what do you make of it? Because I've heard a lot of Liverpool fans saying that he should be left out of the team. I've heard a lot of Liverpool fans saying give what he wants. I've heard a lot of people saying that he's a traitor, but I've heard people say it's the right move. What do you think of this whole saga with regards to Trent potentially leaving for Real Madrid, be it this window or in the summer?
I think it would suck him leaving for free just because of how much he is worth and his value. And I think that is what would hurt Liverpool fans. Whereas, when we lost Ronaldo to Real Madrid, we got 80 million for him. So, and he was obviously the, best player in the world. And I think for me, Liverpool right now, there's not a team better than them. They're top of the Champions League, the top of the Premier League. And he's obviously, homegrown, been there. It probably means a lot to him. But I do think he has won it all at Liverpool. And Real Madrid only come knocking once. Unless you're Kylian Mbappe or Cristiano Ronaldo, Real Madrid only come knocking once. And the PR you can't sort of get when you play for Real Madrid. And to say you play for Real Madrid, I get it. Like, for me, the Premier League is the best league in the world. But I can understand why Ronaldo wanted Real Madrid, and I think like Liverpool right now, they're better than Real Madrid, in my opinion. You beat them. But there is that pull that Real Madrid have, which I think is just different. And I think the problem with it is if he leaves for 3, that's going to suck, because he's worth money. And I think that's where Liverpool fans will be annoyed, because it's not even like you get 70 million for him and you can reinvest that. I think that's the bit of it that sucks. But I think it's one of those, you're in a title challenge. Why drop him? Just play him to the end of the season. If he leaves for 3, he leaves for 3. Whether you play him or not, if he's going to leave for 3, he's going to leave for 3. Because I doubt you're going to sell him now, even though Real Madrid are putting offers in. Play him to the end of the season, because he's won it all at Liverpool. I don't think he's a traitor. I just think maybe his communication could be better, because Salah and Van Dijk, I think, have made it quite clear they want to stay. And they're waiting for these contracts. Whereas Trent is sort of like saying he doesn't like the media talk, but then he's not coming out to silence it. And there clearly has been some flirting with Real Madrid. The question is he flirting with Real Madrid to get what he wants from Liverpool, or is he or is Real Madrid putting that bid because they know that they're going to get Trent and they're trying to flex to Liverpool that they've got the power? It's difficult to know what's going on, but I think if he really wanted to stay at Liverpool, surely he would address it unless he's using Real Madrid to get a better deal.
Well, that's right. Everyone was doing that whole, or Trent was doing that whole talking thing, and I think that just sort of amplified things in terms of that. I didn't take that as, oh, I'm staying. I took that as, people are talking, it's not affecting me, kind of thing. And I'm of the belief that he's put feelers out to Real Madrid to an extent. I don't think they'd be coming in with an offer now if they weren't confident of securing a deal one way or another. And going into this game, which we'll touch on for the last 10 minutes, is Arne Slot said in his press conference, look, Trent is going to play. Trent is fully involved. His exact quote was, he's working his arse off every day in training. But I suppose, is there still a weakness to be got there in terms of Trent's defensive work, which I know is improving? I know there's a lot of people who will critique that in particular. But is there a weakness there that United could still maybe exploit, or is there a different part of the pitch where United are going to be looking to maybe outperform Liverpool to get an advantage?
The lucky thing for Trent is Man United are hopeless in attack at the moment. The only Man United player that's really seemed to cause Trent a problem in recent years has been Rashford. Even Trent referred to himself, his worst game, he said, was the Rashford game, and Rashford isn't going to play, from what Amorim's just said in his press conference. So if Rashford's not playing, I don't see any of our attackers causing Trent a problem, to be honest, because Højlund, potentially, when he gets the ball and runs with it, can be threatening, but he's very hot and cold, Højlund. Sometimes he can have a game where he's, honestly, you're like, wow, like you couldn't see the potential. And sometimes have a game where you're thinking, oh my, we need another striker. He's very hot and cold.
Like that Europa League game, was it Victoria Pleasant that he scored 2 against, or there was a different one?
And even the Bayern Munich games in the Champions League, he got 6 goals in 5 games in the Champions League. You see it, and then he's had that. Was not Everton. He had a Premier League game not that long ago. I can't remember who it was, where he was good. I can't remember which one that was, but he's very hot and cold.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't think we're going to cause Trent many issues, to be honest. I think if we had a left wing back come in that was really attacking minded, then it's different, but we don't have that threat. Our left-hand side is particularly poor. Ahmad is the biggest threat, and he's going to be Robertson's side. That I think that's more gettable. But I think Trent's improved defensively. The only thing I can think of is if it's Kwanzaa right centre back next to Trent. I think Kwanzaa maybe needs a loan or something. He's been a bit shaky on the slot. Maybe the right-hand side of your defence is gettable. But if he's got a Canate, when he's got Canate in there, or Van Dijk, if Van Dijk went to the right, he doesn't. They can cover for Trent.
So, I mean, I suppose I'll ask the $1 million question that every side that's faced us so far has played. Now, I might seem like I'm being a bit cocky at the moment, but it's unbelievable how Liverpool have been this season. On your channel, the ECILA one, where you discuss all the different clubs, Liverpool's videos on your channel seem to do exceptionally well because we just keep setting the bars higher and higher. How do you stop us? What do you think? And it's a very broad question, but how do you think you can prevent this Liverpool attack? Is there a weakness that you've noticed, or anything that you maybe look at and think, take that component out, everything dips a bit? What's the way United don't get thrashed, so to speak, like every other team?
It's difficult because the one team I thought would cause you problems this season, and I said it early on, was Newcastle, and I think they did cause you problems. And the reason I said that is because I thought Newcastle, for me, are the best team in the Premier League when it comes to just the athleticism and work rate in their players. They've got Liverpool better technically, Arsenal better technically, Manchester City were the best technically. I don't know what's happened to them this year, but Newcastle, I've always said this about them, they've always been able to give the big teams a game because they're so athletically good. They beat City, drew to Arsenal, beat Arsenal, I can't remember, drew to you. They give everyone a problem, beat Tottenham, beat Man United. I think the way that we'd be able to get at Liverpool, which we won't because we're one of the worst teams in the league when it comes to athleticism, would be if we had an athletic midfield to control elements of that midfield to stop your attack getting space and chances. And I think that's why Newcastle gave you one of your more difficult games, because they had midfielders with Tonali and Bruno that could sort of go man to man and make it harder for you at times. So it's difficult because we don't really have that midfield. And when you look at the game at Old Trafford and you won 3-0, it was press on midfield, they make a mistake, you win the ball, you've got space. I think the only way we can do it is sort of how we set up versus Arsenal, where we just maybe Bruno and Agate in the pivot just for the legs and the energy. And then we have just a defensive back five to limit the space you get, because you are very good at sort of pushing the opposition into mistakes and, utilising space. If you give Liverpool space, you're done for. You've got the best team when it comes to transitions and, taking advantage of space. It's probably that. But the problem is when you've got Salah in the form he's in, he doesn't even need space. He just makes something happen. And when Lissandro Martinez, who's fantastic on the ball, like his line-breaking passes, everything's unbelievable. But off the ball, when he's just not at it this season, and Salah's going to be running at him, and his positional awareness has been, I don't know. I think you win, and I'm not confident stopping you. It'd be if we could have the legs in midfield and set up compact. I think that's the only way. But we don't have it in the squad.
I mean, I suppose Ugarte was one player who I looked at when he signed him and thought, you can do something here. Like he's not your typical brick shithouse midfielder, which like a Fabinho kind of thing. He's a very, very good on the ball. He's good at progressing things when he needs to. And I suppose there's always the option of him sitting back a bit deeper and just providing an extra layer of defence. But that's if he's in the team. And I want to get for the last few moments, can you go through your team that would be starting this game? Like, what is the Man United 11 that you think would have the best chance, given everything that we've discussed today?
Ooh, this is a difficult one. I would go De Ligt, central centre-back, Onana in goal. I would put Euro left centre-back. I worry about Martinez. I think Euro off the ball could deal with it. I know he's right-footed, but I just chuck him at left centre-back. Right centre-back would be a toss-up between Maguire and Mazraoui, but I would go Mazraoui right centre-back. Maybe. No, I'd go Maguire right centre-back. I'd go Mazraoui right wing-back. I'd put Dalot left wing-back just because I think with Salah, I don't like Dalot left wing-back, but with Salah, I think I'd have to.
Has Harry Maguire improved this season? Sorry, he's someone who I've been noticing quite a bit. Like, has he improved in this back three system, so to speak?
It's difficult because, like, we've conceded a lot of goals, but I don't think it's been individually Maguire. It's for me, like he's renewed his contract for just another year. He's solid. Like, he's not perfect, but for me, he's solid. You know what you get with him, and he's not as bad as I think people have made out in the past. Like, for me, it's difficult because if we had a left wing back, I would be definitely thinking like Mazraoui right centre back and not Maguire. But we don't have that left wing back, and I think Mazraoui right centre back seems to work really well actually. And I'm just thinking the mobility match. But I think Maguire, De Ligt, maybe Euro back three, but then it's a bit slow. That's the thing that worries me. It's a really bit slow, but I just think Leach has been so poor. I would really like to have Mazraoui right centre back, Euro left centre back, De Ligt central centre back, or between Maguire and De Ligt central centre back. But I think De Ligt's been better just for that. But we don't have the wing back options, so it's difficult. And then I would have Agate and probably Maino pivot with Bruno 10, Ahmad 10. And I would actually stick. I'm torn between sticking Xerxes or Højlund up front. Because I think Xerxes got way too much stick. I think people overreact about Xerxes.
Yeah, I agree with that, to be fair.
But I'd probably stick Højlund up top. I think he's probably more suited to the game. If Liverpool maybe overcommit an attack and we've got a chance to transition, he's got that pace, I'd probably stick Højlund up top.
And I suppose the last thing I'll ask before we go, because it's always the thing people need to ask at the end of these things, what's the score prediction? And if so, who's scoring the goals?
Don't like predicted against us, but I'm not going to predict a thrashing because, but I think 2-0. I think Salah, Diaz, 2-0, to be honest.
I mean, I'm not complaining. I'd be happy with that. I said a 4-1 earlier on in Redmen, but that could very much come back to bite me on the arse. But we'll soon find out. Make sure you go watch the game this Sunday at 4:30. Don't know why I'm preaching it like I'm on Sky Sports. I'm not. But yeah, go watch the match. And if you haven't already, please make sure you go check out Alice's channel. She's one of the best football content creators on YouTube. Really go check out stuff, whether you support Liverpool, United, any club, it's just fantastic to watch. And make sure you subscribe to the Good Sport Reviews YouTube channel. We want to try and reach 3,000 by the end of the month. Alice, thank you so much for coming on. Really, really appreciate it. Best of luck to this Sunday, and I'll see you all in the next